There is a lot of content still coming to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and thanks to our interview with post-launch producer Jose Ariza, we now have an update on some of the things that are coming, including a potential return of roaming bosses and whether or not we will get the option to keep our hood up during combat. We also have some information on 2 new swords that are coming to the game this year, and we will tell you all about that in this video, so if you like that, then a like on the video would really help the channel out, and let's go! Now don't forget to enter in our weekly Helix credits giveaway for a chance to win 2300 Helix credits. You can enter via the link in the video description, and remember that you have to be a subscriber of the channel before you can enter. Good luck! So we've already discussed some of the most requested features for Valhalla, a new game plus mode, in our previous video, so go watch that one if you haven't already, but that is of course not the only highly requested feature for the game. Another feature a lot of people are asking for is the ability to keep your hood up in combat. Right now your cloak is part of the game's stealth systems, acting as a visual indicator for if you are currently incognito or not. As soon as you are spotted and an enemy initiates combat, you will drop your hood and you can only put it back on again if you are out of combat. So right now your hood is a very clear visual aid to help you see if you are detected or not, but a lot of players have expressed their desire for a setting that would allow us to fight enemies with the hood up. Luckily, Jordan was able to ask post-launch producer Jose Ariza about this new feature in an interview he did a while back, so let's listen to Jose's response.
Hood on during combat, is that something you guys are looking at?
Yes, so that we are assessing. We need to find a way to make it work within the social stealth, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because there's that conflict. So yes, we're trying to find a solution that reads well to the player, so you understand the difference between when you are hooded by choice or whether you are in social stealth.
Yeah. So it looks like UB are still trying to find a way to make the cloak work in combat without losing the functionality that being cloaked or uncloaked currently has for stealth. And because of this, it's probably not going to be a simple transmog feature that will allow us to turn a hood on or off in combat, but a system where there are 3 cloaked states in the game: cloaked and incognito, cloaked and in combat, and uncloaked and in combat. I personally feel like folding the cloak but keeping the hood up would be a great solution for this, as you can clearly see the difference between cloaked and incognito and cloaked and in combat then. But we'll have to wait and see what Yubi comes up with in the months to come. And just in case this discussion sounds familiar to you, we've of course had a similar situation with Odyssey where people were asking for headgear to show in cutscenes, something the developers ultimately decided against and was never added to the game. So at the very least we can take some comfort in knowing that the Valhalla team is considering to add a cloak in combat feature to the game, making it much more likely that we will see it somewhere in the future. And speaking of Odyssey, both Origins and Odyssey allowed you to fight with a hood up in combat, and even though those games didn't have cloaks as a separate gear item, it's easy to see how amazing this looks in combat. I mean, especially with the Legacy outfit, which are of course also in Valhalla, but it just seems wrong to not have the hood up while wearing them. It feels so weird dressing up as Altair or Ezio and not have the hood on, so I hope this is something that we can try in Valhalla soon. Now of course that wasn't the only question that Jordan was able to ask Jose. He was also able to get some info on whether or not the zealots, the roaming bosses we saw in the main game, will return in some shape or form. Currently you have to kill all of them to complete the Order of the Ancients questline in Valhalla, meaning that the only way to get Mjolnir and the Thor armor is to kill all of them, after which you currently cannot fight them again. So let's throw it back to Jor and Jose once more to hear if this will continue to be the case.
Any chance you're doing something with the zealots again?
Yes, but not in the way you expect. You could say that yeah, you will see them in the future, but not in the same context that you're used to. You will see sort of the core of the system used in another context, but not as a zealot itself.
So not the actual enemies, but the roaming bosses type system will be back in some form.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so some interesting stuff there. It sounds to me like Jose is hinting at a new type of roaming boss that will be introduced, as he says that the core of the system, so the roaming bosses, will return but not the zealots themselves. We do have a definitive confirmation on the return of roaming bosses though, so even if it might not be the zealots, it is still nice to know that we will be seeing some strong enemies roam the world map to spice up exploration again. I had a lot of fun finding and fighting all the zealots to get Mjolnir and the Thor armor, so I'm personally very excited for the reintroduction of of a feature like this. Especially of course if the reward is as good as it was for killing all of the zealots. And I once again have to bring up Odyssey here, as that game's mercenary system gave us a constant supply of tough enemies to fight even long after we've completed the main story and the DLCs. Of course, Valhalla's zealot system differs in the fact that it is connected to the order menu and therefore to the main story, but I personally don't believe that after completing the order quest, England is all out of religious soldiers who want to rid their lands of some of those Viking raiders that have been stealing all of their stuff. And maybe the upcoming River Raids content already gives us a hint on how that new system Jose hinted at will work, as the Champions of Fate that were discovered by AndyReloads and Petter a while back sound very similar to zealots. So might be we start seeing them outside of the River Raids too, but that is of course pure speculation on my part. And finally, another question Jor was able to ask was about the Redda contracts. These have been relatively untouched since launch, but especially after months of playtime they've gotten pretty repetitive and uninteresting, even if we're able to do them in the DLC areas as well. And well, unfortunately, according to Jose, that's not about to change anytime soon. Take a listen to this.
Daily and weekly is like, it's kind of what keeps the game alive between updates, and we're still having the same mission. So is that something you guys are maybe improving?
You will see some improvements to it, but not in the short term. This will be a long term. Right now, we're well, you can literally see where we're putting our time and effort.
Yeah,
for
sure.
the team is focused. It's really in creating more dynamic new content for you guys.
So it is nice to know that we will be getting improvements in the end, but it sounds like it might take a while before we do. And I think we can all agree that an improvement is more than welcome, as the current quests just aren't all that interesting or engaging. We've seen most of what the system has to offer by now, and while I understand that we won't be getting a new exclusive quest every week, I still think a bit more variety in the objectives specifically would be a big improvement. Maybe even rework the reward structure, so Redda quests take more effort but reward more opal, and for some quick opal players can still go back to the connect challenges, which are relatively easy to complete and reward a smaller amount of opal.
Now, apart from these requested features, we of course know that there's also a lot of new content coming to Valhalla, and just yesterday we got an update on 2 new weapons that are coming to the game. And not just any weapons either, no, as these have been designed in collaboration with members of the Mentors Guild. Several members of the guild dropped a teaser on 2 pretty special one-handed swords that are coming to the game: the Astral Blade and the Val Raven's Claw. And maybe this rings a bell, but just in case it doesn't, a while back members from the Mentors Guild were invited for a weapon design workshop by Ubisoft, and it looks like this is the result of that workshop. But of course you want to know about the swords, so let's talk about what we know. According to BPRGaming, who was one of the mentors that worked on these swords, they both have their own backstories and are inspired by both Assassin and Izu designs. And you can clearly see that on the blades, as the crossguard for the Val Raven's Claw is an ornate golden version of the Assassin's logo. Super slick. Meanwhile, the Astral Blade is, I think, the most Isu looking weapon so far. It looks like someone took an apple of Eden and transformed it into a sword. Really cool. Can't wait to hear what the perks on these are going to be either, but it seems like that will be a mystery for a while, as the final decisions on perks were made by Ubi for balancing reasons, so even the Mentors Guild themselves don't know yet. You will let us know once you do, right guys? Please? And while it is not completely clear how we will get our hands on these weapons, tweets from Axis the Animus note that they will be available for members of the Mentors Guild first, and then later on they'll be made available for everyone else. Billy from BPRGaming, linked to his channel in the description, notes in his tweet that the swords will be available later this year, so that means we will see them in the months to come. And finally, Karen Lee, senior community developer on Assassin's Creed, let us know on Twitter that both swords will be available through Ubisoft Connect, so that means they'll either be a free reward or a part of a challenge. So it looks like we will get 2 very awesome looking one-handed swords to play with later this year. I especially can't wait to get my hands on that Astral Blade. I really like the look of that one. And that has been all the new info we have on some highly requested features in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, as well as 2 amazing new swords that are coming to the game this year. We have way more Valhalla content planned, of course, so subscribe to miss nothing. A like on the video would really help us out, and if you want, you can watch our previous video on Redda's weekly reset and the Isu tattoos that have finally been added to the game. Thanks everyone so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye!